Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a massive game that is packed with detail, whether it's the accurately huge amount of different types of armour that you can wear, the reams of codex entries giving background information on everything, or just how easy it is to die to a pack of wolves. It is absolutely filled with just stuff. There's blacksmithing, there's sword fighting, hunting, duels, thieving. There's a lot to keep a track of. It is in many ways a medieval immersive sim more than it is an RPG, and it can be thoroughly engrossing. But the ambitions to create such a broad world can fray a little bit at the edges. The story picks up from the cliffhanging ending of the first game, as Henry goes with Sir Hans and his retinue to deliver a message of peace to Lord von Bergov of Trotsky Castle. Unsurprisingly, things do not go according to plan. Bandits attack whilst you're having a bath in a lake, resulting in the loss of your horse, armour, weapons, allies, and the letter to von Berger himself. And eventually, a little bit later, even Sir Hans, who storms off after an argument. Now, with nothing but filthy beggar's clothes to your name, you still need an audience with von Bergov, but you simply can't get one because you look like a commoner. From this opening, you're drawn in several different directions. Trying to get that audience with von Bergov means trying to get into a wedding that he's going to attend, but that means that you need to get the good graces of the locals, and to get there you might want to pick up a trade like blacksmithing. Henry is the son of a blacksmith after all. Alternatively, you can hare off and try to find Henry's dog, Mutt, who was lost in the ambush, but this ends up being more of a wild goose chase, taking you to unexplored parts of the map filled with new dangers. If and when you reunite with Mutt, he himself is strange. As you interact with him and feed him, your houndsmanship skill will improve, allowing you to unlock perks for him that let him do things like bark to attract attention or hunt down game. Except when I've used this, he mostly followed the prey around without managing to bite it. NPCs also vary between liking him so much that you can hear "silly doggy" every few minutes, to suddenly being just purely annoyed by his very existence. I once snuck into a room in a castle to use an alchemy station and could hear a guard outside the entire time telling my dog off. When I got outside, there were actually 6 different guards crowded around Mutt telling him to move. Silly doggy indeed. This isn't even the strangest skill that you have and can level up in this game. Every stat that you have is leveled up through performing that particular act, the video game equivalent of practice making perfect, to boost your swordsmanship, your smithing, thievery, and pretty much everything else. This goes so far as to let you get better at drinking alcohol. Over time, you'll become resistant to the negatives of being drunk, such as hangovers and, ironically, addiction, while the positives, such as a boost to charisma, last longer, not to mention being able to drink more before getting properly drunk. In general, it is good to do a little bit of everything. I've focused on the things that I would expect an honourable wannabe knight to be doing, which excluded things like thievery, but then quickly felt that the game was pushing me into situations where I needed to do things outside of that comfort zone. If you haven't been leveling thievery when you need a mission that requires stealth, you can really struggle. And I struggled myself during a disastrous 3-hour stretch after being tortured, where I was trying to sneak away whilst what seemed like an army's worth of guards were patrolling the hilly woods through which I was sneaking. I died over and over and over, much to my immense frustration, particularly since the aforementioned torture had halved all of my stats. This also happened at the end of a very lengthy questline that, whilst very cool, was exceptionally long. And that is a running theme in this game. Everything takes a long time. It is very long-winded, and much like with the intensely detailed mechanics elsewhere, whether or not it's for you is going to depend on either your patience or your enthusiasm for medieval politics. Conversations with pretty much everyone from smelters to lords can be absolutely packed with information, whether interpersonal details about other characters, background information about smelting, mining, or countless other topics. Much of this is optional, but you never know how much of it will actually be necessary, and you can sometimes feel a little bit worn out after a lengthy chat that you've just had. To be honest, I really enjoyed the incredible amount of detail, but it won't be for those with shorter attention spans. With a game of this scope, it is no surprise that there's also some nagging issues, ironically in sometimes not explaining things clearly enough. Even now, dozens of hours into the game, there are details that I'm still working out, such as why, when blacksmithing, I get the exact sparks and ringing sounds that the game insists is what I want, but Henry will then comment about nearly breaking the piece that I'm smithing, or needing to work the piece more evenly. I get that this is important, but it relies on a kind of innate understanding that you won't necessarily have for a good period of time. Add to that some clumsiness with aiming hammer blows, and it makes it feel like it's maybe not quite working properly, or that I've missed a particular nuance for how it is meant to go. Still, heating up metal and working it into a sword here is far more immersive and bespoke than a hasty QTE or a rhythm action minigame that you might expect. And that's part of why I just cannot get enough of this game. It's unique and challenging, with a specific vision that it doesn't compromise in pretty much any way. Going on a trip with the Lord early on was a real highlight. It was like I was being taken out of a medieval drama and incredibly immersive. I even enjoyed attending a wedding, as I was actually reasonably entertained by various hijinks, such as regularly hunting someone down to stop them getting drunk, or getting destroyed 3 times in a row in a duel. Quite the achievement. Having started off in the verdant countryside surrounding Trotsky Castle, dubbed the Bohemian Paradise of the game, where you're going between villages and hunting through the woods, once you reach the large city of Kuttenberg, this is a big change of pace. The streets are packed with stalls and traders, there's crowds that will gather to see someone's crimes read out as they stand in their stocks, and you generally have the feeling of a hustling and bustling city. There's maybe not quite enough people to really sell the population count that you'd expect, but it is generally convincing enough. Some of the game's illusion, though, is broken by minor bugs and other moments of weirdness, and we expect many of them to be addressed by a Day 1 patch that wasn't available to us during the review period. Thankfully, they rarely affect the game experience all that much. There's some visual glitches with rain and some flickering lights, for example, and NPCs can get a little bit lost, sometimes just wandering around in circles or getting caught between bits of the environment. They also like to really bunch up in corridors and stairs, blocking the way through, which isn't helped by the typically cramped medieval buildings and little alleyways between them. Reactions to you and the permissiveness of the world are also a little bit inconsistent feeling. You can't really tell if you're allowed somewhere without just barging in and seeing how people react to you. But even if you're encountering someone that you're already acquainted with and generally cordial or friendly with, they might snap at you rudely in a way that you don't expect when you start to talk to them. The inventory and the UI in general look quite nice with a skeuomorphic medieval style, but the maps, inventory and quest log screens slide a lot of details and important information off the side of the screen in a way that never really feels natural to access. It's a bit of a pain and it's easy to forget where to find things. On the other hand, and very much in keeping with the tactile crafting, I don't mind the lockpicking minigame, where you wiggle your right analog stick until you find the exact sweet spot, then try to keep it in the same relative position as you rotate the lock. It takes a good bit of getting used to, but it works quite well, and at least it's not the same lockpicking minigame or pipe mania that you find in every other game in the world. So, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 continues to fulfill the uncompromising vision of the first game. It weaves together a world of lords, knights, peasants and bandits in medieval Europe, with poor Henry of Skalitz caught somewhere in the middle just trying to cope and maybe exact a little bit of vengeance if he can. It is grand in scale whilst being full of fine details, and it sometimes gets in its own way a little bit. But if this is your kind of game, it'll be one that you don't want to end, because there's almost nothing else quite like it. And there we have it, our review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The game is out this week on PS5, Xbox Series X and S and PC. We hope that you've enjoyed what you've seen here and the review that we've handed out, and if you have, please make sure to do the usual YouTube things, like, subscribe, click the bell icon, you know the drill, so that hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!
You can't take me! You'll be fucking sorry. Yeah, don't spare him! We're gonna gut you, you whore son! This has been going on too long! Nice try!
Wanker! I'm all